Hey guys, this is Dr. Padgett from Clements Ferry Veterinary, and we're going to talk a little bit today about training. A lot of clients have a lot of the same questions a lot of times, so we put some of those together for you, and hopefully we'll answer some of your questions. I have my assistant Kristen here, and she's going to be reading some of those questions for us.
Dr. Padgett, when should my dog start obedience training?
So, day one. My answer to that is always day one. Habits begin forming as soon as you bring your new dog home on day one. So, good and bad habits start day one. So, even if it's just as simple as starting a schedule, that training needs to start at day one.
And what are the most important basic commands that my dog should know, in your opinion?
So that depends on what level of training that you want. So I will always tell my clients when they come in, first off, for their first puppy visit, we're going to spend 30 to 45 minutes discussing what we want, what kind of dog we want, what kind of level of training that we want. And there are 100 different ways to train. This is just the ways that work for me, but this is not an exhaustive list, and certainly there are many different ways and different methods for different personalities, different types of dogs, things like that. But the most important commands all depends on what you want out of a dog. So I'll always ask people, I'll start that question by saying, when you come back in 10 to 12 months, what kind of dog do you want? Do you want one that listens, that doesn't jump up and down on people, that comes when you call it, that doesn't poop and pee in the house, those sorts of things? Well, then we need to start putting in some time and effort now to do it. Now, if you don't want that, or if you don't want that level of training, well, then it just depends on what you want.
Do you have any tips on how I can socialize my puppy?
So primary socialization for puppies starts at 7 to 12 weeks of age. And so depending on when you get your new puppy, most of the time it's around 8 weeks, but sometime between 7 and 12, you need to get them out and experiencing everything that they possibly can. Different sights, different sounds, different smells. You'd be surprised, dogs that have never seen a fire hydrant before when they are 6 or 10 months old completely freak out because they've never seen it before. So as much as you can get them out in that 7 to 12 month period, the better off they're going to be in the long run.
Should my dog be punished for bad behavior?
That is a loaded question a bit. I am not so much of a negative reinforcement trainer. Not to say that doesn't work. That also applies to shock collars and things. There are certain instances that I think that they're appropriate, and they certainly do work. But my opinion is always, I believe that dogs are created to please, to want to please, and so it is up to us to bring that out in them. And if they do something that we don't want them to do, well, then that's on us. That's our problem, because we haven't shown them properly the way to do it. Now, I will say this: when you train without negative reinforcement, it is going to take longer to train that habit. But I would rather a dog do what we're asking them to do because they want to please, as opposed to doing it because they don't want to get punished.
Do you believe that my dog is too old to be trained, such as if I were to adopt a dog from the shelter?
No, so there's no age restriction on training. Now, certainly it's going to take a little bit longer to unlearn some things that they probably have already ingrained in them if you get an older dog, but they're never too old to train, but you are going to have to spend some more time, mainly in unlearning old habits and then reestablishing new ones.
What should I look for in a dog trainer? I see that there's many options. What would be good to look for?
So again, that kind of depends on what type of training you want and what you want for your dog, but I'm a big fan of in-house training, to where the trainers will come into your home, assess the situation, whether it's how many family members you have, are there kids in the house, how big's your yard, all those things matter in what ways that we train them. And so they can come in, see the environment, see what we're trying to get out of them, and they can actually see the dog in their home environment as well. And so once they do that, they can tailor a plan that's specifically made for him or her. But also, training is lifelong. Training does not stop by, if you send your dog off for a month's training, there's nothing wrong with that. But when that dog comes back, then the training starts with you and it continues for life. So there's no such thing as a dog that's trained for life and then he comes back and you never have to reinforce those things again. So training is lifelong, but I'm a big fan of those in-house trainers.
Are there specific vaccinations that are needed for dog training classes?
So my recommendation is that all dogs be up to date at least with 1 or 2 distemper and parvo vaccines, as well as their Bordetella or their kennel cough vaccine before being exposed to other dogs. I would also recommend that they've had multiple dewormings as well as a fecal parasite test, just to make sure that they're protected and also the other dogs that they're around are protected as well.
All right, thank you so much for the information, Dr. Padgett.
Certainly. If you guys have any questions at all about training, about puppy behavior, or any questions about your pet in general, don't hesitate to give us a call. Thanks.